Hello and welcome to episode 125 of Masters of the Forge. I'm Adam.
And I'm Jason.
And I'm Quinn. How you guys doing? I'm asleep right now, but that's going to change very soon.
So, as everybody knows, we did not have a March episode.
Nope.
There was no March. March did not exist. For me, I don't even remember that month. What's a March? I don't know.
Yeah, you missed the Ides of March, too. Yeah.
Yeah. So about 6-ish weeks ago, there was a giant snowstorm and my wife's water broke. And so that's been my life. It's been really interesting. First of all, I'm glad it was a boy. Not because I have any sex preference whatsoever. It's just that we had very differing opinions on what name to give a girl, and there was no question about what the name would be if it was a boy, so we're good. There could be no arguments. His name's Quinn Ronald. He was due 2 days ago.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he's 6 weeks old, and he's pretty great. Pretty great.
And he was born on March 7th, 3 and 7, which means he is definitely going to be a Death Guard Nurgle player. So. Oh,
there's really no question about that, Jason. Literally, 15 minutes before we were supposed to record, I was smeared in feces. So there's that. My painting shirt for the day got some interesting paint on it, and I had to clean up before we started, hence the shower. But Jason, you may hear in my pauses some fans going on. That's because the weather got nice here, and just gonna have to do a little bit of noise removal because I can't record without. We're at the can't record without a fan phase of the podcasting dynasty of 2019, so that'll be going. And we may have to stop eventually for me to console a small human, but we're not going to let that stop us. Jason, how's your hobby progress going?
Hobby progress for me. Hobby progress has been pretty interesting. So the friendly local gaming store. So I now have a friendly local gaming store nearby. Not just a local gaming store, shall we say. I'm starting to get more involved there. I want to get more involved in the community. And so on Monday nights, I now go out with, my kill team, but I also go and help people learn how to airbrush. So I've been teaching airbrushing on Monday nights because I don't teach enough in my life. So that's pretty cool. But so also for painting, I've been working on some Death Guard Death Shroud Termies from Forge World, and that's been pretty nice. Those have actually come through pretty easily. And let's see, I worked on Magnus, the 40k demon version with the big wings and all that. He's almost done. He just needs a little more detail. And then for giggles, I started. There's a couple of statues in one of the kill team boxes, and I started painting those as black marble. So I started learning how to do marbling, the marbling effect, which is really cool, and I'm getting better at it. Yeah, there we go. I'm getting better at it. So,
how would you say that it has Magnus been fun to work with, or is it like a slog, or maybe both?
The way I did it was, it was actually a lot easier than I thought. Sometimes when I'm working on stuff, if it comes together too easily, I get nervous and I stop because I think it should be more difficult than it is. And with him, some of the stuff has been just super easy, and you've got the big wings. I went through and did a zenithal highlighting on it, and then I hit it with the whatever the name is, the oxide paint from GW. It's one of the technical paints, and created this kind of blue, light blue color that was really nice and rich. So the only issue I've had with it is that I'm still, getting used to some of the fine control on the airbrush, especially on the Sotar 2020. But it's been a fun paint to do. I need to go in now and do details with the brush, but that's it for him. So
awesome. That sounds like fun.
Yeah. It was a fun mini. It was just one of those. It was really big and it was kind of daunting. But once I got in there, it wasn't that difficult. In fact, stuff came together very, very quickly. So that's been my painting progress. I actually have a lot of progress because it's been 6 weeks, 7, 8 almost. All right, so building. Hold on, wake up. There you go. All right, building. So I had a box of skeleton warriors that a friend of mine had sold me, and I built those. I mean, they still have the square bases. That's how old they are. So I built those. And I think I'll use those as corn demons, as a proxy because they're swords, whatever. I built Shadow Spear. I've even primed those, and I've built bases for them. I just haven't painted them yet. Oh, and then let me see. Did we talk about this last time? I went to Beaumont, Texas for a thing, and I found a place that had a whole bunch of Old Hammer stuff, a place called Comic Stand.
Yeah.
And I found an old Inquisitor model, the Eisenhorn, so it's like a 54 millimeter. It's the bigger one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I picked that. I finally finished building that, which...
Demon Prince Eisenhorn.
Wait, say that again?
Demon Prince Eisenhorn.
Pretty much. He could be. Well, I built him, which was not a lot of fun, just because it was metal, and I'm glad that I'm in the plastic era of GW. I love Old Hammer, but man. And then I also... And then I had also picked up a Greater Demon of Zinc, the old metal version, which lots of spikes on there. I mean, it's the Zinc one, but lots of sharp edges, lots of detail, and I used a lot of super glue. And I was trying not to have those. How you see the minis that have all the super glue as like a meme. I was trying not to get to that, but boy, it came real close.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm so afraid I'm going to drop that and shatter it. I mean, that's my fear.
Have you picked up one of those armature miniature holders, like the GW one, or one like I have, the soldering holder thingy?
I don't. I should, especially if I'm working with metal minis like that, because it would have helped keep the wings together. That is exactly
what that thing is for. It's like even if you decide, you know what, enough, I'm just going to use some epoxy. Like, you could epoxy both wings on, leave it overnight, and then epoxy 2 arms on, leave it overnight, and then just super glue the head on or whatever. Like, that's definitely a thing you can do with that holder. It's really nice.
I will be super honest. I'm surprised I almost went the epoxy route on this one. Yeah. Because it was so frustrating.
I mean, I'm sure other people pin it, but no thank you.
I tried, and I had a lot of problems getting just an area where I could actually... that was thick enough to actually pin, if that makes sense.
Right. Right. No, I get it.
Yeah. And I just couldn't find a place that really would take it. So I just, I was like, well, let's do this with glue, and if it busts, I'll figure out something later. Mm-hmm. So that was the building, and then I did some reading. There's a book.
I see some all caps here.
Yes, there's all caps, man. So I read I read through some of the Sons of the Emperor anthology, and there's a Korax short story in there. And I don't know, should we just go ahead and say spoilers? Because, I mean, this entire episode is spoilers. What are we talking about? But, so if you don't want to hear this, just fast forward about a minute and a half, 2 minutes maybe. All right. Korax is basically hunting Lorgar, and Korax has become something more than a Primarch. He's almost become a demon. And he's like forming into like clouds of animals and stuff, ravens. It's just, and he's coming after Lorgar. It's an incredible short story. Sometimes some of Korax's, stories aren't, well, they're interesting, but they don't really they show him as being more morose. But in this one, it's like he's there to take out Lorgar, and Lorgar is going to be the trophy he hangs on his, on his shoulder pad. So it was a pretty good one.
Nice.
Yeah. So if you are still listening,
I can imagine that, he's not the only one who's kind of transforming over time, you know. Like we've also got Russ, he basically exists in the warp now.
Yeah,
he is. He's the wolf spirit of Fenris. So yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, it sounds like was taking place still fairly early, after going into the warp, maybe like the 33rd or 34th millennium, although I could be completely wrong on that, but it definitely shows that he did continue being angry, and after listening or after reading it, I don't think they're foreshadowing him being released, but he would be really cool if they released him now, just because of how much it seems like he has changed. So, I also read Black Legion, so we could do this episode, and I read the Buried Dagger, which is the last of the Horus Heresy books before they go into the Siege of Terra books. And if you're a Death Guard player, if you really like the Mortarion and Typhus storyline, it has that. It has two storylines, that storyline, and then the Knights Errant Garrow storyline. And the Knight Errant Garrow storyline concludes well. It's
nice.
It's a lot. It's more interesting than I thought it would be. So
cool. Nice. Yeah, I also read Talon of Horus and Black Legion for this episode. Those I hadn't read an Aaron Dembski Bowden book yet.
Oh,
so
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, they were really good. Really pleased with those books. Glad I did it. Like, I listened to those stories basically every billion trips I took from my house to the hospital.
Yeah.
Which is like a 45-minute drive.
Yeah.
So
that is.
I listened to those that entire time on Audible, which is great. I love Audible now that it has Black Library on it. And I just picked up, I pre-ordered the new Dark Imperium book on Audible as well.
So what is that one?
Guy Haley, I think.
Not Plague Harvest.
Something Plague. I don't know.
Is. Okay, Dark Plague.
I'm looking forward to reading that and seeing how the story progresses there. Because I feel like that's kind of the flagship Dark Imperium stuff. Because like Dark Imperium, I feel like there were a lot of books being written prior to the new storyline, and then Games Workshop said, "Hey guys, by the way, can you work some of this Dark Imperium stuff into your stories?" And the writers were like, But this is the actual flagship Dark Imperium stuff here. That's what this is. So, looking forward to that. I built all the Chaos Spacemen from Shadowspear. Thanks to Games Workshop for sending us a Shadowspear box set. Sorry that we couldn't do an episode on it, but
things got busy.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the time when you're getting towards the end of the semester, I can come up with some BS, not BS, but some easy episode to do for us to just get together and chat about.
Yeah.
But the confluence of events made any kind of episode completely impossible.
Yeah. There's no way.
No. But, I had some time here and there, and I stuck together those Chaos Spacemen, and they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
I really like those models. I even kit bashed the, the summoner guy.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The summoner guy. I shaved off most of his belly, all of his ornamentation on his belly, and chopped his left arm off and his right arm off. And I gave him, and I chopped his horns off. So I gave him Slaneshi horns and a Slaneshi staff and a bolt pistol.
Uh-huh.
And I made his belly distended. I distended his belly and like made his cloak or his robe. I made extension to his robe, and I gave him a giant belly with a face coming out of it. So he's basically pregnant with demon. So that should be a good addition to my Emperor's Children. It's pretty sweet. Here and there, I started doing some 1 hour nights, basically, where before I would just, I belonged to the 1 hour night Facebook group, but I really was just binging my painting.
Yeah.
But I've actually been trying to do the 1 hour night now that I have a baby.
Yeah.
So, I've gotten all of the base coats. Okay, I've gotten all of the blue, white, and gold base coats done on my Space Boatsman infantry.
Okay.
So they're basically at the point where if I could legally bring them into a Games Workshop store if I wanted to. The boats themselves, like I just have the one boat that I painted as my test model. The other three are pretty much just unpainted at this point. I'm going to be having a game with Tucker tonight. Tucker's coming over tonight. We're going to hang out and play a game. And I'm just trying to get used to that army, to the Space Boatsmen. This is Age of Sigmar. I'm not using the 40k rules that I made up for them just yet.
Right.
I spent some time making a scenario lookup table, partially for this episode and for future episodes. It's starting to get really hard to keep track of all of the missions and scenarios.
Yeah.
For the new edition of 40k. I'm trying to figure out, because I noticed that some of the scenarios are duplicates almost, or close enough to being duplicates that you kind of want to be able to find the most recent one and use that, or see what the differences between the scenarios are.
Right.
So I made a lookup table in Google Sheets that folks can use. I shared the link on the IC's page. I didn't want to share it to our page just yet until we had all the narrative missions in there.
Right.
But it is finished-ish. I just need to get the names for some of the scenarios. The ones from the Space Wolf one. Space Wolf versus Gene Stealer Cult. Tooth and Claw. Somebody shared those with me, but I didn't get they didn't send me the names of the scenarios. So I just need to get the names of those scenarios, and we'll be done with everything that's come out recently.
Okay.
I feel like that's going to be a great resource for us to be able to see what we're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have it set up so that like there's different tabs with it sorted by different things. So, like, I try to use the same language so, like, I have one column for objectives, and that's not, like, 1, 2, 3 objectives. It's, like, breakthrough, or capture and hold, or it's basically the victory conditions of the scenario, and I tried to use similar language for the different things. So if it's, like, if you're scoring at the end of the game, scoring objectives at the end of the game, I call it capture and hold, or take and hold.
Okay.
If it's kill points, I tried to call it kill units. If it's just to kill the warlord, I put slay the warlord, etc. So that it uses similar language, so you can sort it by that column and see, like escape. Escape is a common one where you're trying to get off the battlefield with something. So all of those are listed as escape. And when you look at them sorted by that, you can see which ones are very similar and which ones are different types of escape scenarios by looking at the other stuff like the deployment and the stratagems. So that's done. Also, I did that a couple days ago. This is like when I should have been doing show notes for this episode. My big hobby progress thing is, so apparently Wendy's been saving up for our taxes all year.
Yeah.
And I don't pay attention, right? And she's like, yeah, we have extra money. I'm like, okay. Can I get some foam? She's like, yeah. I said, sweet.
Rad.
So I ordered like $400 in foam.
Whoa.
To fit about 2.5 years worth of models. I've been juggling my Space Marines and my Emperor's Children and some orcs so that I could bring them to games in foam without like breaking them. And even though I've been doing that, they still break because they're not in the foam that's meant for them.
Right.
So it's been pretty rough. Every time I bring stuff to the store, something breaks. There's some models that are like my Morkanaut is so messed up. I'm gonna have to repin a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways, long story short, $400 in foam. Very happy. I did half of it through KR, half of it through Battle Foam. I know Battle Foam is the evil empire, but nowhere else can I get laser cut to my specific specifications.
Yeah.
And I hate pluck. Pluck is the worst. So that's all I can do. I'm really happy because I have some really weird conversions that I've been doing, and it'll be nice to have that custom cut foam done and ready to go. But yeah, that is my hobby progress. I'm really excited about the Space Dwarfs, to be honest. I'm really glad to get those going. And the next project will I don't know what the next project's going to be. I honestly don't. We'll see. You know what? We'll let the gaming decide that because my gaming time is going to shrink slightly.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that the projects that I pick are ones that will be reflected in my gaming. So I think that's where I'm going to go with my hobby progress after the Space Boatsman.
Cool. Yeah, I'm not sure what's next on my hobby progress just because, well, we'll talk about Beyond the Fringe later. All right, so on to games played. I did get in a game of Kill Team yesterday. Played Raven Guard Scouts versus Shooty Nids with Keith. It was the longest Kill Team game ever. It was
even
about
longer than our Kill Team game on Tabletop Simulator.
It took us 2 hours.
Wow!
Because one part was relearning the rules. Plus, he had Shooty Nids, and I had Raven Guard Scouts. And so we were just sitting there shooting back and forth. Almost no assault. And flesh wounds. I had three guys who had 3 flesh wounds on them at one point. And they would not fail morale. It's just like, okay, fine. So it took a long time, but I do know the rules a lot better now, so I'm pretty happy about that. Right after that game, I helped a new guy come in whose name I don't remember, and I'm sad because I feel bad about that. And he was playing CSM, Chaos Space Marines versus Assault Nids, and that went pretty quick, actually, because it was Assault, and I had him take a Melt-A-Gun. And I had him take a Melt-A-Gun and a bunch of plasma, and he just blew stuff up immediately. So that game went really fast, probably about 30 to 40 minutes, and I was teaching him how to do it. So, yeah.
Excellent.
So what about you?
I have played one game in the past 2 months.
That's good, man. With a newborn, that is impressive.
Yeah, I went back to the game store on Monday this week.
Yeah.
So I think this week was a good time to start podcasting again because I'm starting to get in the swing of things. And I went to the store and I played a game with Mike.
Yeah.
Mike is awesome. He's one of my favorite opponents.
Yeah.
We played a Night Joust. He played Imperial Knights. Hawkshroud, I think. He's been painting them.
Yeah.
And I played my Morkanaut list. which is a little dumb because it's got a lot of big mechs in it and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I only have 4, and I also had 6 Killicans and a Death Dread in there, and he had 2 Armigers, and he had a couple of regular knights, and he had the big shooty laser knight. Yeah. Mike won a lot because I kind of walked forward and shot. I was just walking forward and shooting, which no, what I should do with that list is run forward as fast as I can and stab his knights with my stabby bits. That is what I should have done. But, you live and learn. Mike expressed an interest in playing some of the narrative missions from Vigilus. So I think Mike and I are going to sit down, and whenever we get together, I think we're going to make a concerted effort to play good. The missions from Vigilus. So that should be a lot of fun. Using whatever factions we can. Neither one of us have Genestealer cults, but I have the Diggas, which I have not played hardly at all. Yeah. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Diggas and combine them with Grots and run a Digga plus Grots army as the Genestealer cults in Vigilus.
Yeah, that could work.
That should be fun. And of course, Orcs is Orcs, and he can play the Imperial side of things.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. Do you want to do your Beyond the Fringe?
All right, so Beyond the Fringe. This is where we talk about something that is not 40K related that we think, should be talked about. My Beyond the Fringe is End of the Semester. Wow. Yeah, I'm just happy that this is Easter weekend and I've got time off because I've been putting in some long days for the past month.
Dodging the mumps.
Say what?
Dodging the mumps.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Thanks for reminding me. Okay. My university has a mumps outbreak happening, and so I think we were up to like 13 cases, which that's a lot of fun. So I've been like
that's awesome.
I've been dodging that.
That is awesome.
Hiding other people, all sorts of fun stuff like that. Yeah. But I think I have 3 more weeks or 2 more weeks. I don't remember. But once the semester's over, I can start gaming some more and like maybe sleeping. I don't know.
Fantastic. That is just glorious. So my Beyond the Fringe has obviously got to be all of the wonderful well-wishers who spoke up and congratulated me on the new baby. And of course, we have to include, I suppose we should include Wendy in there. She's pretty great. Anyways, thank you so much for being so understanding, to all the listeners out there who are so understanding about, what's important in life, what comes first, but we do plan on moving forward and keeping up, with our monthly podcasts. Mm-hmm. This episode was supposed to be about Abaddon, and it is. Hey, huzzah!
Abadabadoo.
Now, I was thinking, we doing like last episode we had the first 3 scenarios from Vigilus. We kind of looked at those in detail. If I'm going to be playing these with Mike, I think it would be superfluous for us to do episodes detailing those scenarios and then talk about playing them. I think just talking about playing them is superior to talking about them in general. So instead of that, we're going to be talking about using named characters in your narrative campaigns. Okay.
Yeah.
So first segment here is going to be. Oh, I also was like, we should try to get ADB on to talk about his books.
Yeah.
First of all, I think he's talked about them a lot already on podcasts. Especially, I think he was on like ICs to talk about it and whatever. Second of all, our setup for recording other people who are remote is not great right now. I sent out a little message asking people for some advice on how to do it with this Windows machine. And I hope some folks have already got back to me. So I'm going to try to set things up so we can have authors and other parties on again.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think this conversation is going to be a good one. Just stick around and we'll be right back.
Greetings, mofos.
Are you out of George Dickel number 8, staring at a broken chess machine?
Don't want to spend the rest of the year tied to that couch?
Well, why don't you head on over to the 1 Hour a Night Facebook page and see what exciting stuff is going on there. It's a place to post all your daily progress in the hobby grind, as well as receive and give positive feedback. Also, there are usually a few interesting challenges going on.
That's right. All you have to do is search for 1 Hour a Night on Facebook. That's numeral 1 hour a night, all one word. Blood serum tests will be administered prior to approval.
Se til helvete og kom dere vekk. Det er ikke bikkje, det er en slags ting. Den imiterer bikkje, men det er ikke det. Kom dere vekk, idioter!
What he said.
I just want to invite you to Frayed Paintbrush Hobby Progress Facebook group. It is a positive group set up to motivate us to hobby and then share it with all the other members. At the beginning of the month, post up your monthly challenge on the page, and then at the end of the month, you post the completed work for all to see. No pressure, just fun among friends. Once again, that's Frayed, F-R-A-Y-E-D, Paintbrush. Hope to see you there.
Hey Archons, tired of the boring predictability and efficiency of stuff that always works? You need the Slith Party Bus! Got an extra 473 points that you can't find a solid use for? You need the Slith Party Bus! You could spend 420 points on 3 reliable Lance Ravagers pumping out 9 Dark Lance shots per turn. That'll only give up 3 victory points, or you can drop 473 points on 2 Archons, 8 Slith, and a Raider for 11 victory points. You need the Slith Party Bus! The classic Slith Party Bus. Still awesome. Party Bus! Still hilarious. Party Bus! It's the Slith Party Bus! If you love the Slith Party Bus, you'll want to check out our other exciting products. We have the Rack Wiffle Ball Bat, the Trueborn, and the Blood Bride. Trueborn and Blood Bride models no longer available. The classic Slith Party Bus, still awesome, still hilarious. It's the Slith Party Bus!
Welcome back. So, this episode is about Abaddon. I choose to pronounce it Abaddon because puns are terrible. Now, it is assumed that the pun was the intent behind the name, which is not true. Abaddon is a actual character from antiquity. From the myths of Hebrew texts. A similar character is named Apion in Greek or Exterminans in Latin. He simultaneously stands for... well, actually, the name stands for a bottomless pit of destruction, situated beside Sheol, the realm of the dead, in Hebrew texts. He's also an angel of the abyss. In the Bible, he's the king of an army of locusts and the angel of death. He's also known as the Destroyer, capital T, capital D. And I believe it is highly unlikely that this name was chosen on accident.
Yeah, there's been quite a few names from antiquity that have been chosen for various characters and planets that, they're not accidents at all. Like I keep seeing Agrippa show up, across the IP, which, that's someone that's important in, in in medieval. What does he actually do? He's a medieval philosopher. So, but he does. His name shows up quite often in the GWIP. So
Cool.
yeah.
Cool.
All right, so Abaddon was born on the world of Chthonia. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
Sounds right.
Sounds about right. I mean, which is described as a long-dead mining world, originally settled before the golden age of technology. The world's close enough to reach Terra without warp travel, and thinking possibly it's Proxima Centauri, which today we know has at least one terrestrial body in orbit. The world's resources have long been played out by humanity because Earth first will strip mine the other planets later. Yeah. So all that remained of the world's population were gangers and techno-barbarians. It was upon this world that Horus, Primarch of the Luna Wolves, was found by the Emperor. Ezekiel Abaddon took this lifestyle quite well and eventually slew his own birth father in ritual combat. He eventually gained no small measure of notoriety, and the Luna Wolves took notice. His eventual installation as first captain was a virtual inevitability. And it's interesting that if that's where it's located as Proxima Centauri, which meant that was he one of the first Primarchs found, or do you know? I can't remember. I know he was found pretty quickly.
I believe so. Yeah, they were saying that he's been around for quite some time.
Okay.
Horus. Chthonia is, imagine just like it's kind of like the moon of Praxis from Star Trek 6. Like it's been so heavily mined that it didn't really take much to collapse that. Yeah. that planet eventually. It's also interesting to note that Abaddon has been said to be nearly the clone of Horus himself. Mm-hmm. Some warriors who knew both men claim that telling father and son apart was at times difficult. It bears noting that Abaddon is far older and more experienced now than his father ever was in life. So Abaddon balks at any congruence between him and Horus. His father's motives, he believes, were impure and inelegant. He ridicules Horus's weakness at having given his destiny to the ruinous powers so completely. That kind of explains why Abaddon refuses to allow himself to suffer such a shackling. Yeah. He has the god's favor, but he's not going to pledge himself to any one chaos god.
Yeah, and I think it was in Black Legion where one character asked him, "Are you Horus?" And he just laughed and walked off. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, all right. So that's really interesting that they keep mentioning that throughout the books as they look so much alike.
Yeah.
So during the Great Crusade, Abaddon stood at Horus' side, advising him as part of his trusted circle, the Mournival. Abaddon usually advised action over caution and recrimination over mercy. Abaddon was bright, temperamental, and bellicose, always quick with a joke despite the serious circumstances the legions found themselves in. Of course, Chthonian humor is a somewhat dark and twisted brand of funny, not funny ha-ha, or even funny but more the kind of funny that brings your polite dinner party to a screeching halt. So I guess I'm Chthonian. That does tell me a lot about myself. Okay, good to know. Okay, oh man, painting Sons of Horus is so difficult. Okay. At any rate, Abaddon distinguished himself throughout the Crusade right up to the war on Ullanor, where he alone survived among his companions in holding a green tide, which threatened to outflank Horus and the Emperor as they assaulted the war boss's lair. I really wish that there was more written about that time period, about Ullanor, before the Crusade, before the Horus Heresy novels started, because there's some interesting stuff in there that I'd like to read more about. Of course,
that sounds like it was an interesting fight. Him and his Terminator buddies just whooping butt on a giant horde of orcs, and then just all of them dead except for Abaddon lying on a pile of corpses. Rad.
Well, it's like a Tempur-Pedic bed,
Orthopedic.
Orthopedic. There we go. Orthopedic bed.
Abaddon played a pivotal role in the Horus heresy, allowing the word bearers to heal Horus's grievous wounds and sealing his fate with the ruinous powers. Good job, dude.
Yeah.
Abaddon remained loyal to his Primarch throughout the conflict, but he was embattled elsewhere when Horus was slain by the Emperor. I'm sure we'll learn more about that later.
Oh, yeah.
And this emotionally broke him. Abaddon did manage to lead a costly assault to reclaim the War Master's body before fleeing with the rest of the Sons of Horus and shards of Sanguinius' sword into the Eye of Terror during the time known as the Scouring. There, in the Eye, the Legion would establish a shrine to their fallen father. The Sons of Horus homeworld of Chthonia would be obliterated sometime after the heresy, whether due to structural collapse, thanks to millennia of overmining, right down to the core, or intentional sabotage is unknown. I would guess the latter.
Yeah, I think it was in terms if it was in Black Legion or if it was in Talon of Horus, it kind of was implied that the other legions came in to destroy the planet, but it sounded like, well, the planet was already it wasn't like they did much. So I mean, it's not particularly well, I don't want to say documented. But
it's like, let's shoot one photon torpedo at the planet. Kapow.
Pretty much. It's like, well, look, you can either tear it down or watch it fall down. Your choice, which is cheaper, which is faster. So, let's see. It wasn't just the Imperium who wanted to cleanse their memories of the Sons of Horus, but the traitor legions were not too kind either. They saw the Sons of Horus as a reminder of their great defeat in the heresy, and the Legion were hunted for centuries to come. Abaddon fled into virtual obscurity for years. Throughout the time after the Scouring, warlords of the 9 legions in the Eye of Terror fought each other for supremacy, territory, and resources. Everything from ammunition to slaves and even clean water was precious to legionaries in the Eye. In time, Abaddon began to crave unity for his brothers. He wished for them to gain a sense of purpose again. A series by Aaron Dembski-Bowden details the rise of Abaddon and the forming of his Black Legion. The story is told through the ruminations of... Okay. I went through and reread this to learn how to say his name. So his name's like Isander Kane, but...
Iskandar Kaon.
Yeah, but it's spelled Iskandar Kaon, but it's pronounced this other way, but I don't like the way that... So we're going to go with Kaon, Iskandar Kaon. A sorcerer formerly of the Thousand Sons Legion. I think it's been well documented, my interest in the Thousand Sons. If it hasn't, well, then consider yourself known. And so this character really does speak to me. I really do like it. And it's a well-written character. A lot of people love this character. I'm seeing a lot of kit bashes on Facebook and the independent characters area and some of the 40K converters groups of Kion now, which is pretty cool. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, there's some cool like the whole Izakarian group.
Yeah.
It has been modeled by a bunch of people, and it's really interesting to see them all in reality.
Yeah.
Some folks are really creative with it.
I think
so. I really liked this series, like how it explained how time passes in the Eye of Terror, and what it's like in the Eye of Terror. I want to say it's interesting to see that it's quote unquote not so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it is bad, but it's not. It's not like being in the warp. It's very different from being in the warp. It's a place where the skin between realities is thin, and it is possible to exist there without being completely eliminated.
Oh yeah,
like the Imperium would have you think.
Yeah, you're not overrun by demons immediately every time you open the door. Yeah,
but it's really interesting how. Your strong emotions do birth little demons that pop out from nowhere, and extreme acts of violence or emotion does birth powerful demons. Mm-hmm. It's really, really interesting.
Oh, I think our buddy Jordan is actually doing a version of Kion.
Oh, cool.
I think because he and I were talking. I was talking with him about it on Facebook and through Discord. Because he asked if I had done it yet, and I said no, not yet. So I guess I got to get to work on that. Maybe that'll be my next project.
Get to work. Whoopsh. The story of the first glimmerings of the Black Legion is told in the novel Talon of Horus. In this novel, Kaon and a band of renegade Astartes from various traitor legions caught wind of the Emperor's children having stolen the body of Horus from the fortress of Lupercalos on Malium. The word-bearer seer who alerted them to the threat, Sargon, had, unbeknownst to them, been sent by Abaddon to bring them to the location of the vengeful spirit. It was Abaddon's dream to bind the 9 legions together into a single brotherhood and once again fight for a just cause. Vengeance. Together, they assaulted the demon world of Harmony in a lightning raid and found that Fabius Bile had not only fully developed clone of Horus, but also younger versions of the other Primarchs in vats.
Yay.
Abaddon slew the Horus clone in combat, and they destroyed the rest of the abominations. Kaon threw his old spaceship at the planet and destroyed the Emperor's Children's Canticle City and pretty much everything else.
I love that scene.
Now, yeah, it was a really good scene, and someone on the Independent Characters Facebook group was talking about that, like, and was trying to like put together the physics necessary to explain why it basically destroyed the whole planet, and it's very little explanation is needed because all like Imperial spaceships are able to fly at like relativistic speeds even without warp travel.
Right.
And when you're going that fast, that much speed, it doesn't take a whole lot of mass to cause an extinction level event.
Right.
And this was a giant spaceship. So, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was.
I really liked that book.
That was the discussion where they were trying to figure out how many Nemesis that ship was, which became really nerdy very quickly. It was a great conversation. I loved it.
What was it, like 13 point something Nimitzes or something?
It was it was enough that was kind of ridiculous, but it was like, okay. And yeah, he's running the numbers, and it was pretty amazing to see that. See, Facebook can be good for things. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, the Independent Characters Facebook page is good for many things.
Well, there we go. All right.
I've been getting a little trigger happy on there.
Yeah.
Because, like, for a little while, some folks started joining that weren't really listeners of the show, and they didn't really understand the concept of the group, and they were like posting memes and like posting dumb questions, like troll. They were trying to troll the group and everything, and I was just like, all right, let's bring out the guns. Wop, wop, wop. And the powers started to get to me, and I sacrificed them on the altar of good taste. It was nice. It felt good. It's a good place to go. Independent Characters.
The altar of good taste. I don't even know if I want to talk about that. Okay. Forging ahead. All right. After this event, Abaddon began asserting himself in a position of power in the Eye. The novel Black Legion details his rise after the destruction of the Canticle City and their eventual declaration of the Long War against the Imperium. Abaddon spent years in the Eye building a power base. He gave other war bands a choice: join or die. See? 0-1, binary choice. There you go. Some didn't join right away. Others need to be convinced, and others were destroyed. Abaddon's mixed warband were often referred to, and not kindly, as the Black Legion by their foes, which Abaddon eventually regarded as an honorific, and a name stuck. In the end, the two great combined forces in the Eye were Abaddon's Black Legion and Death Guard Lord Daravek's warband. The conflict between these two groups permeates the narrative of the novel and serves to cement Abaddon's right to rule the 9 legions. Yeah, I have reread Talon of Horus 2 or 3 times. I don't remember how many times I've read it totally. And Black Legion I've read a couple of times now. Both are great books. There's one group in there, which I don't think we're going to talk about very much, but the warp ghosts. I love those guys. Oh my god.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Yeah. Those that was an interesting group of characters. And I'd like to see more of them in the future.
Right. The physical embodiment of the Astronomicon was really interesting.
Yeah.
And how it's really cool how I thought that was neat how the Astronomicon creates this powerful light that basks the galaxy in its radiance, and when it where it hits the Eye of Terror, it creates this kind of sheer force.
Yeah.
Where it blasts against the Eye of Terror and causes like this wake that's difficult to cross with starships, because it's like the two energies smashing into each other. And it explains it all. That kind of explains the shape of the Cicatrix Maledictum too. There's kind of this bow wave breaking out from the Astronomicon as a beacon, and I bet that bow wave is tough to break through as well.
Yeah, and I'm wondering going back to the warp ghosts. Sorry, I'm on that.
Yeah,
one.
no, that's fine.
They remind me a lot of Legion of the Damned.
Right.
I mean. Did you notice that too, or is it just me?
No, they do. They remind me of Legion of the Damned. I think maybe it's another one of those intentional things that is meant to make you think, oh, is this Legion of the Damned?
Yeah.
Or is this, or is it Firehawks, or is it? But you never. It's not really necessary to say it's this, and I don't think they want to.
Oh, they're not going to.
They're not going to. But yeah, it definitely reminds me of them. But they definitely have a defined purpose. Like, they are ferrymen.
Yeah.
So, I think that's really interesting, and it would be cool to see if they make an appearance going forward in the new lore. I haven't read any of. I haven't read ADB's new series on Spears of the Emperor or something?
No, I haven't read that either. Yeah.
And that's a new chapter. He's writing he's writing books about a Primaris chapter, and I wonder if these guys are going to show up in that to help people through the Cicatrix Maledictum. We'll see.
Oh, that's interesting. I had not thought of that. Okay. Well, ADB, if you're listening.
Eventually, Abaddon came across a former Inquisitor named Moriana, who had the gift of sight. As the Nine Legions had been blind and deaf to the goings-on of the Imperium during their exile, so all of this is new info to them. She instructed them on the new order of things outside the Eye, and informed Abaddon of his destiny as War Master. So long as Abaddon could beat Daravek to the punch and take the demon sword Drashian for himself, he would be destined to lead the Nine Legions to their revenge. So, when you have these prophecies, sometimes you have this binary thing where, well, this prophecy will come to pass if this happened, or this other prophecy will come to pass if this happens. It's more of a prediction based on actual events than seeing the actual future, Mm-hmm. And I think this is one of those situations. I'm eager to take his place in the annals of history. Abaddon abandoned his holdings throughout the Eye, and his fleet escaped the Eye of Terror. It wasn't as easy as one might believe. The Eye is both their sanctuary and their prison.
I'm curious about Moriana. There was some implications there that she was someone who was known. And so I have a suspicion about who she might be.
Yeah, Moriana, the Inquisition, so both of these books are told through the words of Kion, who has given himself up to the Inquisition and is being questioned by the Inquisition. He's basically the herald, Abaddon's herald to the Imperium.
Yeah. And
it seemed as if the Inquisition knows of Moriana. Her name was well known throughout the histories of the Inquisition.
Yeah, it I'm wondering if it's someone who has already been what's what I'm looking for, introduced, but with a different name. I have a suspicion about who it might be, but I'm not totally sure.
Okay.
I'll go and say I think it might be Euphrates Keeler from the Horus Heresy series, which was one of the first saints. Although now that I think about it, probably not. Anyways, okay. So meanwhile, Sigismund, and Sigismund, who's totally not a fanatic about anything, he and his Black Templars have been insisting that the threat of the traitor legions was not over. But the High Lords of Terra failed to listen to him. Still, he ventured into the galaxy in search of this threat.
Not the High Lords of Terra.
No, not them. They believe everything. So he went looking for, the threat, and he traced signs of traitors back to the Eye of Terror, and surmised the easiest portal out would be the Cadian Gate. Yeah, a region of space which cut through the warp storms that made up the Eye. So when the Black Fleet emerged from the Eye of Terror, they were engaged by the Black Templars in what would be known as the First Battle of Cadia. And this happens before, let me see, this happens before there is a Cadia.
An actual, fortress world.
Yeah.
And as we all know now, the reason why there is this exit spot in the Eye of Terror is due to the Blackstone pillars on Cadia.
Yeah.
Causing this solidification of real space at the Eye. So during that furious battle, the Black Fleet was beset from the Eye by Daravek's fleet as well. Pincer. The Black Legion eventually prevailed thanks to the nimble and powerful Vengeful Spirit and the genius of Iskandar Khaon. Abaddon defeated and the absolute rage of the Amnesis.
Yeah.
Which is the machine spirit of the Vengeful Spirit. So Abaddon defeated Sigismund in single combat upon the bridge of his own ship, though he nearly died in the attempt. And the Black Fleet scattered to the four winds before the remains of Daravek's fleet could hunt them down. The Black Legion was able to send Sigismund's corpse back to Terra on his heavily damaged Gloriana-class battleship with a warning and declaration of war etched on the Black Blade.
That was an interesting part
We
of the
are
book.
returned.
Yeah, we are returned. Yeah. One, the Amnesis, the spirit of the Vengeful Spirit. Wow, that's an interesting character.
It's Khaon's sister.
Yeah.
But combined with a bunch of other consciousnesses.
And, yeah.
I love... Dembski Bowden goes into a lot of detail about the nature of machine spirits and how, and we've learned a lot about that in recent episodes, where sometimes these machine spirits, they're always biological in nature because of reasons.
Yeah.
Because of the dark age of technology and what happened with the robots. Sometimes these machine spirits are printed. They're printed out, manufactured, similar to the machine spirit, or similar to the robot, quote unquote, the robots from Blade Runner.
Yeah.
The Blade Runner synthetic organisms are actually biological in nature. Very little actual robot parts. But also a lot of the time they're just carved up out of human brains or animal brains. They'll cut their neurological systems out and use those. And it was really interesting how the Vengeful Spirit is just a bunch of human brains all networked together into one giant consciousness.
Yeah.
That was cool.
That character is amazing, though. I mean, even though it's, just the machine spirit, it's still a pretty fascinating character. One thing I did really like, and we didn't talk about it in the notes so much, was Abaddon seemed conflicted about fighting Sigismund. Like, he was
Yeah.
going to fight him, but he's just like, you can join me, brother.
Yeah.
And...
Oh, yeah, he would have loved to have him by his side.
Oh, that would have been amazing. But I mean, that wasn't going to happen, but it would have been
No.
an amazing pairing. And there's just, Dimsky Bowden really does, kind of look at that and the conflict that it created. Mm-hmm. And, sending his body back to Terra was a mark of respect,
Well, and he also stopped his men from defiling the corpse.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, he's just sent them back
Yeah.
whole. Because he had respect, and like Abaddon isn't doing this. Abaddon didn't bring the Black Legion together completely based on bullying.
Yeah.
He's brought the Black Legion together with a promise of brotherhood.
Yeah.
Sure, whoever doesn't join him dies, but at the same time, the reasons for bringing them together isn't to dominate his brothers, but he gives them the choice.
Yeah. All right. So now, after this victory, Abaddon was eventually able to coalesce enough of his might to navigate the labyrinth below the Tower of Silence on the world of Uralon to recover the demon sword, Dracnian? Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Ostensibly, the third book in the series should detail the story. This sealed Abaddon's fate as the War Master of Chaos and the most favored servant of the Chaos Gods, though to this day he remains loyal to no single deity, because he is honestly loyal to his, the Black Legion. That is, they come first,
He's loyal to his brothers.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say that the sword should be more powerful since it bound him to this path. Mm-hmm. It's not really the sword that did that. It's just that the foretelling was that whoever got it would be the War Master. So the sword didn't solidify it. The fact that he got the sword solidified it. And there's a subtle but important difference there. But Dracnian is still very interesting. I think one of the most recent heresy books written by Dimsky Bowden had a lot of very interesting plot points about Dracnian. He was a demon who some say was born when the proverbial Cain slew Abel and grew in power with each murder wrought by mankind. When the Emperor's power waned, Dracnian and the ruinous powers sought to end the threat he posed to their existence. Dracnian's antics are detailed in the novel The Master of Mankind by Aaron Dembski Bowden. We will not reveal the plot of this novel in its entirety, but suffice to say the demon mostly failed in his plans to kill the Emperor. But during the battle, it found itself bound in the shape of a cursed sword with the faces of the damned souls of the murderers wailing across its blade. Sweet. Dracnian tasted the blood of the Emperor, but his will was strong. He tore out the demon's sword and drove it into the torso of one of his custodes. Dracnian, bound into the form of a custode, was borne into the vast labyrinth of the webway until found by Abaddon many years later. So that is a very interesting story.
Yeah.
Especially considering what happens in recent times.
Yeah. I have to go back and reread Master of Mankind. I read most of it, and for whatever reason, I think I got tired of the Custodes. I think they just drove me nuts, and I couldn't finish reading it. So
right.
I'll have to go back and read it. So in the novel Black Legion, Kion mentions Dracnian several times. The influence of the demon seems to reach out across the light years and touch his mind, even within the psychic and physical walls erected around him in Imperial captivity. In the sword's physical presence, its maddening, constant psychic assault seems almost unbearable. This seems very similar to the effect the blade of Antwer, which is carried by Castellan Garen Crow of the Grey Knights, has on those in its presence. Of course, Dracnian is powerful enough that it could deny partnership with anyone who sought to wield it. For some reason, it has chosen to ally itself with Abaddon, or Abaddon has truly shackled the demon to his service. We will have to wait for the third novel in the Black Legion series in order to glean any insight on their relationship. At any rate, by claiming Dracnian, the First Black Crusade had concluded, with Abaddon gaining the favor of the gods and many of his fellows. He was officially the War Master of Chaos. Yeah.
I think it's possible that that Dracnian has chosen to cleave itself to Abaddon's path because Abaddon's path is Terra, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, it is to conquer the Imperium, and that's really, I mean, their paths are entwined in that. Like, Dracnian sees the danger that the Emperor still poses, and they seek to take out. Oh, are you awake?
That sounds like a grot.
Not quite. Not quite. Yes, it is a grot. So now, armed with the blessings of the ruinous powers and the talent of Horus, the very weapon which slew Sanguinius, Abaddon, like when they find him, it still has some of Sanguinius's blood on it. Which is really
yeah.
Abaddon is bringing vengeance upon the Imperium in a series of crusades, each focused on a single substantial goal, each building on the previous gains. The Chaos Space Marines Codex gives a concise overview of the second through the 12th Black Crusades. Some of this information was only recently woven into the histories as of the 6th and 7th edition Black Legion codexes. There seems to be specific... Oh, by the way, it is codices. Someone who is knowledgeable of Latin and has no horse in this race because they're not 40k people. Told me it's definitely codices, but that has been morphed over modern times.
Well, so English will steal any word that it finds even remotely fascinating and then mess it up. So.
And then beat it to death in a dark alley.
Yeah, pretty much.
There seems to be a specific aim designed to allow the narrative to fit together in a cohesive manner. Each Black Crusade is designed to pave what Abaddon calls the Crimson Path, the march to his eventual conquest of Terra. He does this methodically with no small amount of deceit and guile. Each engagement includes some kind of feint, which the Imperium falls for every single time, thus guaranteeing his true intentions are come to successful fruition. So he'll attack somewhere, but he's also doing something else somewhere. Look at the hand, pow, pow, pow. Oh, I'm doing this other thing. Throughout these campaigns, Abaddon not only... Well, it also gives the Imperium the illusion that they're winning.
Yeah.
It's like his feint will fail. Technically, like they will succeed in thwarting his feint, but he's actually working on something else. So throughout these campaigns, Abaddon not only claims resources and weakens the Imperium and breaks reality, but also recruits new warriors to his cause from across the legions. He preaches brotherhood and promises his followers that he will give them purpose and duty once more, but through acts of vengeance.
All right, so we'll go ahead and start talking about the various crusades. In the Second Black Crusade, Abaddon assaults the Bellis Corona shipyards, destroying the Blackstone spires there and releasing a demon which has been imprisoned there. Destroying Blackstone spires. Okay, I'm seeing something. In the Third Black Crusade, Abaddon sends a distraction force against the world of Cadia while he raids the shrine world of Gerstal. While the distraction force is ultimately annihilated, the battle takes a mighty toll on the Imperial defenders, and the raid on Gerstal removes the threat posed by prophecy, which would have seen the return of Saint Gerstal. During the Fourth Black Crusade, the Despoiler assaults the citadel of the Chromarch. While the victory itself seems like any other, and expends a great many Black Legion resources and lives, the crusade isn't just about the victory itself. During the assault, Abaddon uses Dracnian to tear down the fortress's doors, which were thought to be totally impregnable. As it turns out, they were not just a simple doorway into the keep, but an empiric seal against the incursion of the warp, likely another Blackstone construct.
Woohoo!
Oh boy.
The Fifth Black Crusade is another campaign to further disrupt the stability of real space, this time in the Elysia sector in Segmentum Solar. The Black Legion assault several seemingly disparate locations in the region and destroy the Venators and the Warhawks chapters in the process. After this assault, psychic mutation runs rampant in the region and not so coincidentally paves a path to Armageddon. The Sixth Black Crusade has less to do with the Imperial assets taken by Abaddon upon the Forge World of Arketh, but consolidating his power. For this battle, Abaddon manages to form an alliance with the Sons of the Eye, an opposing warband led by Drakarth the Sightless. The Black Legion and the Sons of the Eye fight side by side against the Mechanicum. When they have pounded the world flat and conquered their foes, Abaddon slays Drakarth, and the Sons of the Eye bend the knee to the War Master.
Well, there you go. Making friends.
Nice.
Yeah. How to get ahead in business. All right. So, prior to the Seventh Black Crusade, Abaddon holds a tournament of blood, which pitted his chosen in combat against one another. In the end, Abaddon slew the victor and earned the favor of Khorne in the process. The Seventh Black Crusade in Millennium 37 was known as the Ghost War. How did I not know about this one? Okay, sorry. The Black Legion disappeared almost immediately after leaving the Eye and executed a campaign of psychological warfare against the Imperium. Instead of engaging in direct battle, Abaddon invaded the Imperial Navy while the rest of the fleet assaulted easy targets, sowing terror throughout the Imperium. This campaign came to a head when Abaddon nearly wiped out the Blood Angels in a single engagement on McCann at the head of a massive assault of Khorne berserkers. Although the Blood Angels lost many brothers Gene Seed, and their bodies were defiled, the heroics of Reclusiarch Thalstinian Joris and the Death Company he led into battle were such that Abaddon honored their corpses with thrones made from the armor of their defeated Black Legion foes. After the Ghost War...
So awesome. He took his own men's armor and made thrones out of them, out of the armor, for the Death Company to sit upon.
Wow. That is amazing and time-consuming.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, wow, that is bloody also. Alright, after the Ghost War, Abaddon breaks his Astartes prisoners with visions of the Imperium's defeat, and they eventually join the forces of the Black Legion. So, yeah, come on, brothers, come on in. The Eighth Black Crusade involves a huge, complex ritual across Segmentum Obscurus designed to appease the god of change. Eighth? Whatever. All manner of atrocities were committed in each venue, either the destruction of a specific number of cities or the execution of a prescribed and significant number of people. Despite attempts by the Inquisition and the Adeptus Mechanicus, the grand equation was completed with precision, and whatever benefit that the Changer of Ways is bestowed upon the Black Legion is as yet unknown. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, kill 137 people here. Destroy 13 cities there. Like, really weird. The Ninth Black Crusade was conducted in Segmentum Obscurus in the mid-38th millennium and focused on the weakening of real space in that region through sorcery. Of course, the Imperium was more interested in thwarting the military strikes that Abaddon conducted in order to keep the pressure off his true goals. 2 chapters, both named the Celestial Swords, were destroyed in this conflict, and the Lamenters were nearly wiped out again.
Well,
so it's funny, like they sent out all right, Celestial Swords, come help us. 2 chapters show up.
Yeah, that's...
I'm the Celestial Swords. No, I'm the Celestial Swords. Well, we'll just kill you both and let the Emperor sort it out.
That's one of the things, though, that shows up. I think originally I think there was like an issue in the writing, but then they said, well, you know, it's such a large bureaucratic organization that this could happen. And after working in a small bureaucracy at a university, I could why there was only 2 of them, it should have been 3. You know?
right. I think, what was it that GW had accidentally created 2 of them, and they just decided to write it into the lore that this is why, because there actually were 2 of them.
And I do love the idea of the Lamenters were almost wiped out again. It's like they're the... I don't even know what would you call it? It's like, you know, like a punching bag. It's like,
yeah, they are.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're almost back to full strength. Hold on. Let's fix that.
That's why I made my my Gorkanaut out of, when I made the Gorkanaut out of the repulsor, I made it a Lamenter's repulsor, because it's like they finally got some reinforcements and some extra gear from the Imperium. Thank you. And they were immediately wiped out by the orcs, and the orcs took their stuff and used it. The 10th Black Crusade, aka the Conflict of Hera. Abaddon once again allowed his forces to fan out across the sector while he and his Black Legion teamed up with the Iron Warriors against the Iron Hands in the Medusa system. The Iron Warriors were hungry for vengeance, which gives Abaddon time to gather a great deal of information about Medusa's defenses. It also gave him the shell of the vessel, which he would eventually build into the Planet Killer. Dun dun dun, the Planet Killer.
All right, so 2 more. The 11th Black Crusade, also known as the Doom of Reloria, was executed with success thanks to a spark of providence. At first, Abaddon intended to bind the aid of a powerful demon to help him navigate the barrier of storms from the Eye of Terror. Whether due to happenstance, madness, or intentional treachery, the demon materialized them in the path of the Wog of an orc warlord named Mulgar Undred Teeth, near the cardinal world of Reloria. Yeah, sure, why not? After protracted war, the War Master absconded with several orc weird boys. Yeah, we went on this crusade, we picked up some gifts for the kids, got some souvenirs. Okay, so with the weird boys, he experimented with them in order to fuse chaos and orc psychic might and reduce the veil of reality in the Relorian system. Of course, in the end, the orcs decimated the population of Reloria, because that's what happens.
Duh.
Yeah, big duh there. Then the 12th Black Crusade was detailed in Battlefleet Gothic and is also known as the Gothic War. This massive engagement procured Abaddon the use of 2 Blackstone fortresses, which hold incalculable power.
Right.
Yeah.
And they pop up here and there. Throughout this time, there are many other engagements by the Abaddon, by Abaddon and the Black Legion, actions that could be seen as mere raids, but each one provides a piece of the puzzle of Abaddon's eventual great victory against his hated foes. More and more Blackstone constructs, each designed by the Old Ones to hold the warp at bay, were destroyed one by one. Throughout the galaxy, great acts tore at reality and weakened the veil between the Materium and the Immaterium.
Yep. Alright, so the 13th Black Crusade has been discussed exhaustively throughout the history of GW. It has been waged for decades in real time, burning across the vicinity of the Eye of Terror, and laying waste to countless worlds, not the least of which is Cadia itself. Struck and broken by a Blackstone fortress as detailed in the old Codex Eye of Terror, and the Eye of Terror Global Campaign, the Fall of Cadia supplement, the Cadia Stands novel, and many other sources. Remember, the planet broke before the Guard did. Alright. The 13th Black Crusade represents the great mobilization from the forces of the Traitor Legion since the Heresy. It crushed the defenses at Cadia and collapsed the Blackstone pylons there, which had been holding back the spread of warp storms born from the Eye of Terror. This action, along with the actions of Magnus and Mortarion, or Maggie and Morty, ripped a seam of warp storms from one side of the galaxy to the other, creating the Cicatrix Maledictum. Abaddon and his compatriots have succeeded in not only cutting off the Imperium's resources, but have also widened the front of the long war. The forces of the Heretic Astartes need not strike from just the Eye or the Maelstrom, but from anywhere along the Cicatrix Maledictum.
Right. They have the ability to kind of travel freely throughout the Eye or throughout the Cicatrix and pop out. Now, if they still have... I don't know if they still have a relationship with the ferryman there, with the warp ghosts.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the Legion of the Damned did help the Imperial forces get through the Eye of Terror as well, or through the Maelstrom. So I don't know. They don't seem to have... Maybe there's a couple of different chapters that have kind of become this...
Yeah.
neutral force throughout the galaxy. I really find it very interesting how Abaddon is going to be able to move his forces through that bow shockwave at the edge of the Cicatrix Maledictum without doing a lot of damage to his ships.
Yeah.
Because it's made perfectly clear that this is a very similar construct to the Eye of Terror, and he used to be able to get out through the Cadian Gate. Now, how is he making his way out without causing a lot of damage? I think that's something that it's not something that's answered in Vigilus Ablaze, and it would be interesting to see how he's doing this.
Right.
And it might be because of those warp ghosts.
I'm just wondering how many. Do you think this Vigilus Ablaze? It's the second book. Do you think there'll be a third one, or do you think that it's?
No, I think it's a two-parter, but I think there's going to be. I don't think this is the last we've heard of from the Black Legion. That's for sure.
Got it. I was just wondering because Well, I
think the story's going to be. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as we get into the story of Vigilus.
Got it. Okay.
Which we begin now. Abaddon's fleet arrived near Vigilus at the height of the war of beasts and encountered Calgar's fleet. The Loyalist vessels were assaulted at their very core by demonic incursion. Disorganized, they were forced to fall back and regroup, allowing the Chaos fleet to pass into the void space around Vigilus relatively unmolested. When the Chaos fleet assaulted the planet, the people of the world who thought Calgar's fleet had arrived in victory were left disillusioned and in disrepair. Abaddon had raised a huge force of traitors, not only rallying his own Black Legion, but also Wordbearers, Iron Warriors, Night Lords, and others. So this book actually has rules for other renegade chapters.
Okay.
Most of the Night Lords were away attacking Uthway, but a small contingent, we may have a story about them in the future, you never know.
Yeah.
But a small contingent, along with the Renegades, the Scourged, attacked Dirkton. Waves of hybrids and metamorphs repelled them, and the Pauper Princes maintained control. The Night Lords were happy to take their raiding elsewhere. The Word Bearers focused on the Spires, targeting the Ministorum. The Iron Warriors brought down hardened defenses of the Mortwald, much to the chagrin of the Imperial Fists.
Yeah.
There are a lot of Loyalist chapters at Vigilus at this point.
Oh, cool.
It is all hands on deck.
Yeah. Interesting. Do Raven Guards show up? Or do you remember?
I don't know.
Okay. I'll look at it. The book should be delivered to me on Monday.
Oh, it hasn't arrived yet?
No.
Okay.
It's okay. Because this weekend I'm just going to sleep.
Nice.
All right. So, the Death Guard spread a plague of Gellerpox infected and glitchlings across Dontoria?
Dontoria, sorry.
Dontoria, okay. They are not only resisted by Imperial forces, but also the actions of the Chaos War band, the Purge. I like that. Who are anathema to life itself. These heretic Astartes marauded throughout the Hive Sprawl, pressing the region's furnaces into the service of burning away all life, untainted and tainted alike. The Hive Sprawl was soon choked with thick, deadly air pollution. The mortal population soon became less than a nuisance, so the Death Guard and the Purge set upon each other. That's interesting. Okay.
Isn't that neat? The Purge are kind of a Nurgle-y group. Not really, though. They just want to destroy things. They want to destroy life. They have no interest in spreading the gifts of Grandpapa Nurgle.
No, they're just there to purge. All right, and then, dude, sorry, my cat just jumped in my lap, and now I'm having to move. I'm having to move my microphone a little bit differently. There we go. Abaddon's forces were largely successful, but they were also quite surprised by resistance from the Pauper Princes. They had not expected a full-fledged Gene-Stealer cult to strike at them from the lower levels of the hives while they were embattled with the Imperium above. Yeah, and that was kind of a thing that was in Vigilus Defiant, too, was the, what was the cult was there, they were in hiding, but they were slowly gaining strength, and all of a sudden, this all made them have to force their hand much sooner than they wanted.
Yeah, they woke up, they kind of had to... the hive fleets aren't ready yet.
Yeah.
To attack Vigilus, and so they have to fight for survival for a lot longer. But with the machinations of the word bearers in the Alpha Legion, the people of Vigilus were in a blind panic, turning to the ruinous powers for salvation. Some did not exactly go willingly. The wealthy rulers of the Mortwald, for example, had stockpiled food, water, and other luxuries for years. As they were beset by riots of their own people, they were also visited by the Flawless Host, a contingent of the God of Excess. This renegade warband slew the nobility of the Mortwald and spent the rest of the war enjoying themselves in the rejuvenant clinics. Oddly, these Marines and many other Chaos forces are depicted using the new Primaris armor. The book also speaks of some renegade chapters being more recent converts to the Despoiler's cause. Okay. Yes. Calgar reached an agreement with Lucien Agamemnus IX, the planetary governor, to purge the upper levels of the hives with the Sororitas' cleansing flames.
Burn it with fire.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So, Chaos forces with new Primaris armor. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Good. That'll help me out there a little bit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, and here we go. Some of my favorites. A force of fallen angels, led by librarian Osandus, had resided within an internal storm called the Swirl, at the center of which lay an ancient fortress called the Citadel Vigilant. Years ago, Osandus and his warband had been rescued from a losing battle with dark angels by Abaddon. He had sworn fealty at that point. That sounds like a cool warband. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're really neat.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that. All right, so the Citadel Vigilant was home to a powerful and ancient weapon known as the Void Claw. From the Dark Age of technology, and it can create a small singularity. Osandus had gathered a huge number of fallen to his banner and allowed word of their presence to spread to the Dark Angels in hopes of using the Void Claw against them when they came calling. I'm liking this more and more already. All right.
Yeah, he was hoping that the Rock would show up and he would just shoot the Void Claw at it and kill everyone.
Oh, yes. Okay. The Binding Oath allowed Abaddon to find him in the swirl and teleport down with his Bringers of Despair and bargain with the Fallen. He planned to turn the Void Claw against Vigilus itself, aiming the singularity at a point between the planet and its moons, Neo Velum. The audacity and chance of great opportunity that came with throwing Vigilus into such a chaotic panic swayed Osandus, and he agreed to the operation. The singularity between the swirl and Neo Velum caused chaos amidst the Imperial fleet and the two worlds. Burning spires collapsed on Vigilus, acidic seas on its moon overflowed, and consumed structures there. Throughout Vigilus, the population panicked and despaired. Oh, okay.
It's pretty great.
That is pretty
There's
great.
actually like a little blurb about how, like in the orc cities near the direct influence of this anomaly.
Yeah.
Like anything that's not bolted down, like skittered across the desert. Like he started like rolling towards the storm, and all the Gretchen were running around trying to pick everything up and sell it back to the orcs. Calgar enacted a plan to bait the Word Eaters, Crimson Slaughter, and Red Corsairs into the wastes. At first, the Loyalists were bombarded and hard-pressed by both the heretics in the city and the orcs in the wastes. As the two forces beat upon them, the Loyalists were extracted from the area by waiting air support. The Chaos forces were overrun by the orcs. Good job, Calgar.
Yeah.
As we suspected, the deposits of Blackstone being mined by the Mechanicus were part of a complex array of constructs designed to keep the warp at bay. Doy. The Gauntlet, which is the space between, like, of real space that cuts through the Cicatrix Maledictum. The Gauntlet was formed by a harmonization between Vigilus and the Word of Sangua Terra on the other side, which had the same Spears of Blackstone. So it's this harmonization between Vigilus and Sangua Terra that keeps that pathway open. What we don't know is that the ore can also be used to focus warp energy. Not just negate it, but also focus it. So the Despoiler has been crafting ways of lensing the warp using constructs of Blackstone. One of these is the Noctilith Crown, which not only poisons the minds of nearby beings, but can also be used to enhance the powers of Chaos Sorcerers, and is a new model kit by Games Workshop.
Yeah.
The Brazen Beasts, former battle barge, now a colossal demon engine, belched a swarm of demon engines into Mega Borealis. Their mission was to eliminate the energy shield there so that the rich deposit of black stone within could be annihilated. The battle between the Mechanicus and the Dark Mechanicus constructs was quickly and rudely interrupted by Cruel Daka's Speedwa and the green tide of speed freaks and dreads, added chaos to chaos. It seemed as if Cruel Daka himself, claw in one hand and shield made from the flank of a dune crawler in the other hand, would thwart the plans of Abaddon in that moment. So heroic. Although he did manage to kill his way to the Warpsmiths doing their work, he was too late. The shields fell, and the vengeful spirit atomized the entire area, orcs, Mechanicus, and brazen beasts alike.
Wow.
What a hero.
Yeah. Alright, so with Vigilus burning around him, and the Cicatrix Maledictum closing in on the Nockmund gauntlet like a thirsty throat, Marnius Calgar declared a challenge to Abaddon. Face him in single combat to determine the victor of the conflict. He lowered the disruption fields around the pinnacle of the Palace of Saints Heaven, so that Abaddon and his Bringers of Despair could teleport to him and engage in the capstone battle of the engagement. The Chaos Terminators and Primaris bodyguards engaged each other while their commanders fought in earnest. Calgar held back at first. Only when he made a chance falter did Abaddon take the advantage and strip away one of Calgar's fists. Calgar rocked Abaddon in the face with his unexposed fist, then knocked him back with the other, cracking his foe's breastplate. Abaddon counterattacked with Dracnian. Calgar then tried to deflect the bow with his fist, but the sword plunged into his chest, piercing both of his hearts.
Now this is interesting.
Yeah.
This is where we're expecting Dracnian to suck his soul out.
Right.
But in the past, Dracnian has not been able to immediately consume the soul of a powerful being.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Maybe it takes longer. I don't know. At that moment, the Vengeful Spirit was struck by a daring attack hatched by Calgar and the Aldari. Okay. Calgar had taken possession of several Vortex warheads, which he had affixed to the stealth suit Aldari vessel Vol's Ghost. The ship ran so silently that not even Abaddon's coterie of sorcerers didn't see the threat coming until it was too late. The ship rammed into the Vengeful Spirit amidships and detonated 6 Vortex warheads simultaneously, creating a rent in reality which threatened to swallow her whole. Abaddon,
I thought that was really interesting. Like the cooperation between the Aldari and the Imperium continues here.
Yeah.
It was thwarted, it was fraught with a lot of difficulty, though, because the Vigilus hierarchy had mistaken the Eldar and Dark Eldar, and the Dark Eldar had caused a lot of problems for them.
Right.
And the ruling council of Vigilus had actually struck against the Eldari, against the regular Eldar, and killed a bunch of people, and that had really pissed them off. But Calgar kind of whistled and looked away as they killed, as the Eldar killed the ruling council of Vigilus, and that kind of appeased them and got them on the Imperium side again.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah. Alright, so Abaddon was forced to disengage from the area when he received word the Vengeful Spirit had suffered this grievous blow, it was about to translate from the system. Dracnian resisted this decision, wanted to stop it. Calgar was not quite dead yet, which I'm sure we could bring up a Princess Bride quote right about now. But Abaddon couldn't risk losing the vengeful spirit. He left the cleanup work to his possessed and departed. Calgar's Belisarian furnace surged stimulants into his body, and he stood to meet his foes and, with the aid of the remaining Primaris in the pinnacle, beat them back. Okay.
Yeah. He got stabbed in both hearts.
Yeah.
And was like, I'm fine. Let's do this.
Yeah, that's...
Sure,
man.
It's really weird. The chapter is called... What's the chapter called? It's called, like, the Fall of a Legend or something, which, you know, is a little disingenuous.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sure, he fell, I guess, technically, but not really. It's fine.
How about a slight stumble, slight trip?
Yeah.
Catching the door jams you walk through. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yo, door jams are dangerous.
That's right.
Like I have nearly bashed my kid's head in on a door jam multiple times already.
Oh.
I haven't hit him yet, but it's going to happen. And he's going to be pissed. Anyways, the Imperial fleet took advantage with the disappearance of the Vengeful Spirit and struck hard against the Chaos Fleet phrasing. Without the War Master at the head, the traitors dispersed, more interested in saving their own hides than solidifying the victory. In addition, the storm around the Vulian swirl was dissipating due to the gravity imbalance created by the Void Claw. The Dark Angels and White Scars responded to the assault on the Citadel Vigilant, and the fallen angels within. The White Scars, oddly, found themselves ensconced in a strange temporal anomaly just before the battle and arrived late. Not a single living or dead body was to be found, and most of the machinery for the Void Claw had been taken. The Dark Angels were nowhere to be found.
Wow. It's starting to sound more like Blood Ravens there.
In the end, although the War Master and his forces had dealt a grievous blow to Vigilus and destroyed many of the Blackstone spears, the Knockmoon Gauntlet remained open, if not dangerously narrow. Vigilus was left badly scarred. Many of the city continents were lost and all were burning. Billions had lost their lives, while others had been taken as Chaos or Drakari slaves. The orcs were fragmented, but still present in the wastes, and more were on their way. Aww.
Yeah, there we go.
And the pauper princes were still weakened far too early for deliverance from their gods, but they resolved to hold on to the bitter end. When communication was finally reestablished with the Imperium, the planet was beginning its recovery. Although the astropaths were plagued by cryptic messages, visions which were interpreted as a warning of the return of Abaddon's planet killer, threatening Sanguiterra, Vigilus' sister world on the other side of the gauntlet. So the planet killer was featured in Battlefleet Gothic and has a really big weapon called the Armageddon gun.
Mm-hmm.
Super metal.
Yeah.
It wiped out several worlds throughout the Gothic War and the early stages of the 13th Black Crusade. It was supposedly laid low when it was caught unsupported by a small battle group of less powerful yet more maneuverable vessels. Probably a game played by, the actual designers of the game. But at any rate, it's not dead yet. And I think that's probably where they're going next with the story.
Yeah.
It's not going to be it's not like a 3-parter series on Vigilus. Instead, the story is going to continue. Vigilus was, if we know anything about Abaddon after reading all this information about him, we know that he attacks with a feint at first, hiding his true intentions. And if he didn't succeed at stopping the Knockmoon Gauntlet with a strike on Vigilus, the Planet Killer certainly will finish the job on the other side of the Cicatrix Maledictum, if it's allowed to. This is you see the picture there. This thing is super awesome.
Yeah.
It's a rad spaceship, and it has a model. My buddy Pat has one. It's a giant metal model that just defies all attempts to stick it on a flying base. It's this giant hunk of beryllium. It's pretty great.
If you drop it on your toe, you'll probably break something.
Yeah. So that's the history of Abaddon right now. I feel like the next book by ADB is going to give us a lot more information about him in his current state. Like, there's a lot of information about him in, like, these supplements, these gaming supplements, but
right.
As far as novels are concerned, we really have ADB to thank for fleshing him out a little bit. And I think this next novel is really going to tell us where he's at now, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one. I'd like to see what's happening. And I know that he actually hit a deadline last week, according to Twitter.
Yes.
Which,
yes.
You know, go buy your lottery tickets. That doesn't happen.
If it is, I mean, I will reach out. I'm not sure if he'll have time to spend time with us, but we'll see what we can do. So we're going to take a quick break. I need to get a bottle going for little man here.
Yeah.
But we're going to come back and we're going to talk about Abaddon on your tabletop. We're going to talk about his rules and the rules for the Bringers of Despair. And we'll also talk a little bit about using named characters in general during your narrative games.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a tough topic, actually. All right, we'll be right back.
Come here, boy, get the ball. Come on, Max, get the ball. Mom, Max won't get the ball. He's lazy.
I think I know why your Zote is being lazy, Jenny.
Why, Mom?
Because you forgot to feed him his Zotabix today.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Zotabix contains all the nutrients and random animal parts a growing Zote craves. It not only provides our Zote with the energy it needs to play with you and protect our home, but it also keeps its chitinous shell fresh and shiny.
Oh, boy. I'd better feed Max his Zotabix.
Yes, you had.
Zotabix is made in part from grade
Max,
A
time for
Astra
dinner.
Militarum post-engagement byproduct and is infused with 112 essential vitamins
No,
and
Max,
minerals
down.
harvested from your Zote's natural habitat, the finest desert deathworms.
Ah!
Zotabix is available in any shopping center on worlds where Zotes are allowed or where the Imperium's inexorable influence has not yet reached.
This is Rob Sanders, and you're listening to the Masters of the Forge, where the world of 40k comes to life on your tabletop.
Oi! After an hard day's shopping, I like to head down to the pub and enjoy a good brew with me mates. Shopping humans all day is hard smelly work, so I likes to top myself up with something nice. Chopper body spray. It's not just a treat for you, it's a treat for the whole crew. Now available in Green Apple Grunt, Illinois After Dark, and Oops Don't Press That Fragrances. Chopper body spray, don't make me axe you twice.
Welcome back. So, we're going to start off by talking about it's kind of like two little segments in the big segment here.
Yeah.
And on your tabletop section, we're going to talk about Abaddon's rules. He's Abaddon the Despoiler.
Mm-hmm.
He is a big bad mobo. The new model is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
What a great model. This is, he's got lots of head options. You can choose to like do cloak or no cloak, right? Or you can do, you can choose to put his trophy rack on or no.
Yeah.
Dracnian looks really cool with its awesome, like faces and souls screaming all over it. The talon of Horus is huge and prominent and awesome. And he's got his foot on a Primaris Lieutenant, which is very important because they were like, when they did the reveal for it, they said new Primaris Lieutenant. Crunch.
Well, yeah, there were so many quote unquote complaints about all the new Primaris lieutenants, and that was their Yeah.
He's got an unsurprising stat line. He has actually just a regular Space Marine movement, 6 inches, even though he's in Terminator armor.
Right.
2+ ballistic skill, 2+ ballistic skill because it's Abaddon. Strength 5, toughness 5, 8 wounds, 6 attacks, leadership 10, save of 2+. So he's got the Terminator armor, so he's got a 2+ save, and he's got less than 10 wounds, which means he can't be targeted normally if he's not the closest model. And 6 attacks is pretty great for a Lord type character. He's, he is not the end all be all of all things, but you don't want these characters to be that. And we'll talk a little bit about that later when we talk about making your own named characters in campaigns. So the Talon of Horus has 2 profiles, one for shooting, one for melee. It's got like a combi bolter in it. It's rapid fire 2, strength 4, AP -1, damage D3 in the shooting. So it's got some pretty cool like explosive rounds in the shoot when it shoots. The Talon itself is ×2 strength, which is pretty great for a claw.
Yeah, that
because
is.
it doesn't have like a -1 to hit or anything, not like a fist. -4 AP, so it cuts through pretty much anything, and it does D3 damage. So you're talking about 6 attacks. That's pretty good for 6 attacks. Again, it's not a Imperial Knight fist, but that would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
We don't want to jump the shark. That's the thing. You got to be careful about jumping the shark with these characters. Dracnian is +1 strength, -3 AP, 3 damage, which is fairly reasonable. You would think that it would do a little bit more.
Yeah.
But he's not a sword, right? It's a demon prince. Like a demon. It's a demon. It's not a sword. It's a demon.
Yeah.
A lot of the Dracnian has more to do with the story than fighting on the tabletop.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? It's not supposed to end all life on a planet when he swings the sword. He's got a demon with him. He doesn't have a sword with him. So just keep that in mind. Also, whenever Abaddon fights, you just roll a d6. On a 1, he suffers a mortal wound.
Okay.
On a 2+, you get that many extra attacks. So he not only has 6 attacks with the Talon of Horus, but he has d6 attacks with Dracnian on top of it. Except unless he rolls a 1, in which case he takes 1 point of damage. So, it's additional attacks, which is pretty good. And it swallows your soul. So that's fine too. He's got Death of the False Emperor, like any other Chaos Space Marine. He is the War Master. You get 2 additional command points if he's your warlord. He has Dark Destiny, which gives him a 4+ invulnerable save, and all damage is halved, rounding up.
Oh, okay.
So that's really, really good. Lord of the Black Legion. He gets to reroll hits for any Black Legion within 6 inches of him. That's in the shooting phase or the combat phase. Friendly Heretic Astartes units automatically pass morale within 12 inches, so that's extremely good.
Yeah.
And he has Teleport Strike, which, because he's got the Terminator armor, so you can put him in the teleportation chamber. One of the things that's always been interesting about Abaddon is that he has all of the faction keywords. He's got Chaos, he's got Khorne, he's got Nurgle, he's got Slaanesh, he's got Zinc, he's got Heretic Astartes and Black Legion.
Wow, okay.
So, going into it, like we'll talk a little bit about that. Okay, when you use him, if you want, a lot of people are painting him up in different colors, not just Black Legion, but also other Chaos Legions. You can actually use him as your warband's personal warlord, but not Abaddon.
Right.
But he still counts as like those gods. He's marked by those gods. So if you want to do a super cool, super powerful Lord of Slaanesh, you can do that using Abaddon's rules because he counts as Slaanesh.
That's interesting. It's an interesting way to let him be with everyone, I guess. Or
right,
yeah.
Exactly. We also have some cool, like, again, there are a bunch of really cool units in here, some new stuff like this Lord Discordant and whatever. We might talk about them later someday.
Yeah.
Once you get your book and we can talk about it. But it's really, 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 really cool. Anyways, we're also going to talk about the Bringers of Despair, who are Abaddon's personal bodyguards. The Bringers of Despair are one of these new cool specialist detachments, where you apply the detachment to one of your current detachments. So any of them. Any detachment you want can be a Bringers of Despair detachment. You can only have one. You can only assign specialist detachment rules to one. One. You can only make one. Each detachment can only have one specialist detachment attached to it.
Right.
So you can't like make one thing, Bringers of Despair, and then the same detachment like Devastation Battery. You can't do that.
Okay.
So you spend one command point to make this detachment your Bringers of Despair. And any Black Legion Terminator units gain the Bringers of Despair keyword.
Okay.
They can use stratagems. One of the first one is Brutal Subjugation, which for one command point means that they're terrifying killers, tearing through foes with contemptuous ease. Well, you use this at the start of the fight phase, and you pick a Bringers of Despair unit, and each model slain by this unit counts as 2 models in the subsequent morale phase. So when you're killing people, even really high leadership units might break, which will be really good against things like mobbed up orcs and space marines and stuff. Like they may actually fail their morale checks. Then we have Chosen Enforcers, which is 1 command point. Used when a friendly heretic Astartes unit within 18 inches of Bringers of Despair is required to take a morale test. That unit automatically passes. So these guys are commanders and terrifying commanders on the battlefield. Then you have a Warlord trait. If you choose to like lead your army with a Bringers of Despair Warlord, he is chosen of the War Master. Reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly Bringers of Despair units while they're within 6 inches of your Warlord. If he already has the Lord of Chaos ability, then you can reroll all hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Bringers of Despair units while they're within 6 inches of the Warlord. So if he's already a Lord of Chaos, it goes from rerolling 1s to rerolling all. Then we have a relic that you can take. This one is called a Faux Cleaver, which is an axe carried by members of the Legion since the early days of the Great Crusade. Model with Power Axe. Faux Cleaver replaces the model's Power Axe with a following profile. It'll be +3 strength, -2 AP, D3 damage, and rolls add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made with this weapon against targets with the Imperium keyword. And as you know, you're going to do extra hits if you roll 6s, and this adds 1 to that, so you do the math. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that is the Bringers of Despair. If you're interested in Chaos Terminators, especially these sweet new Chaos Terminator models, pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that is pretty cool. That's some interesting stuff. I'm looking forward to the book.
Yeah, I like it. It's got a lot of really fun stuff in it. They sent us that. They also sent us a Chaos Space Marines book, which has all the units from Vigilus in it, but not the specialist detachments. I think they're keeping all the specialist detachments away from the codexes. That stops them from having to reprint them over ad nauseum.
Yeah.
And so the specialist attachments are staying with the campaign book that they come from. But if units are updated, they update those units in the codex. So I expect when the Space Marines codex comes, the new one, it'll have all of the units from Vigilus Ablaze or from the
Vigilus Defiant.
Vigilus Defiant and whatever. All that stuff will be in there, but I would expect the detachments, like the specialist detachments, to remain within those campaign books.
Yeah.
And for that to going forward to that being the format that they go with.
Yeah, that will make that'll make some things interesting. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think bringing Abaddon to your army would be really fun, especially if you're playing out these Echoes of War missions in here.
Right.
Echoes of War are missions which follow the specific storyline. So narrative missions have two types. Three types actually. You have Crucible of War, which are generic narrative missions. And they usually have stratagems and special rules that are meant for narrative play. Then you have Echoes of War missions, which follow a specific storyline and use specific factions. For example, the one I really wanted to talk about is the last one here called Demise of a Legend, which it features the battle between the last battle in the book between Calgar and Abaddon.
Mm-hmm.
So these are really cool. There are three stratagems for the attacker, 3 stratagems for the defender. And you have mission veterans that they've started to put in with the Vigilus book.
Right.
So, for example, the mission veteran for the attacker for the Space Marines is Lieutenant Edthris.
Mm-hmm.
As this commander surged ahead to confront the hated Despoiler, Lieutenant Edthris smoothly took command of the strike force, directing them in the elimination of the traitors. Pick a Primaris Lieutenant from your army to be Lieutenant Edthris. The range of this model's tactical precision ability is 12 inches rather than 6 inches. Pretty sweet. And then Vandreth, the Black Seer, is the mission veteran for the Black Legion. Vandreth smiled with satisfaction as Abaddon dueled the leader of the Ultramarines. Surely the gods would be watching and bestow their favor. Pick a Terminator Sorcerer from your army to be Vandreth, the Black Seer. You can reroll one or both of the dice each time you take a psychic test for that model.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that is really cool. So, and you get one of those, you get those for every one of these Echoes of War missions.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, yeah, I think that if you're going to play with Abaddon in your narrative games, I strongly recommend these Echoes of War missions for that purpose. Mm-hmm. So, in Demise of the Legend, I wanted to talk about this mission because I think this is a great way of showing what named characters with plot armor, how they're kind of meant to be used in these big climatic scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So, the way it works out is they have like 2 deployment zones and 6 objectives on the table, and they have a 3-inch radius dual zone at the center of the battlefield. Units outside the dual zone cannot move even partially into the dual zone, and units within the dual zone must remain wholly within the dual zone. Units outside the dual zone cannot target units inside the dual zone, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Finally, the dual zone blocks visibility for units outside the dual zone as if it were a solid column of infinite height. So it's basically showing those 2 huge characters fighting each other and you can't shoot through it.
Right.
The dual zone ceases to exist if one or both of the warlords are destroyed. So the duelists, the warlords, each have wounds characteristic of 25 in this mission.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's representing them like parrying each other, wearing each other down, and fighting to their last breath.
Right.
All right. Victory at the end of the battle. So basically, it's if either warlord is destroyed, that side wins. The side that killed him wins.
Right.
Or otherwise, they go with power level. Then it's funny. That's really what all that matters. The 6 objectives are actually Reign of Devastation. At the start of each battle round after the first, the attacker rolls a d6 and consults the table. Like, debris rains down on one of those random locations.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, like mortal wounds come down and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But so I think that when you have a named character in a fight, it always feels wrong when they like die to a stray bolter shot.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but it feels kind of stupid.
Yeah.
And you have to come up with some excuse why they show up in the next scenario.
Yeah. Well,
we've had this happen before, right?
Yeah, we've had some people get offed a little early than they were supposed to. Yeah. So, where do you want to go from this? Because we're talking about using the named characters. Do we talk about like one of the things that's now happening in the Horus Heresy community is the rise of the Centurion games, that sort of idea, where no one uses a named character, and they don't use the Praetors, which the Praetors are like the equivalents of the chapter masters. Well,
right,
kind of. Praetors are actually fairly strong characters, but now they're wanting HQs that are much weaker, and so that's kind of interesting. Or at least I find
that is interesting, and that's like 5th edition. In 4th and 5th edition, there was like a whole movement of playing games without named characters.
Right.
Like you'd go to a tournament, and one of the rules would be no named characters, and it would be assumed.
Yeah.
You would have to ask, "Hey, are we using named characters?" And the answer would usually be no.
Yeah.
These days, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
In regular 40K. In your narrative games, I think a lot of older players, like players who've been playing the game for a while, might think to ask that question.
Yeah.
But newer players would not. They would just assume that it's something that they can do. I think for narrative play, it makes sense to talk about this anyways.
Oh, yeah.
To have this conversation about what units you're bringing and what the story that you're trying to tell is. Like when Mike and I do our Vigilus games, we're going to fully disclose with each other what armies we're bringing so that we know what kind of game to expect.
Yeah.
And I think when you're doing a narrative game, you don't want to bring a named character if that character, it doesn't make sense for that character to be at the engagement, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, if you wanted to use that character's rules for whatever reason, ask yourself why you want to use those rules.
Right.
Do you want to use those rules because it's powerful? Well, maybe you're not playing your narrative games for the reason that your opponent wants to play the narrative game, because that's not really the point. Now, if the point is you want a certain theme for your army, if you want a certain feeling for the detachment or the army that you're building, then that makes complete sense. But if it doesn't make sense for that character to be there,
right?
For example, if you're playing a campaign set in the Ghoul Stars and you're playing a Chaos Warband, and you want a powerful warlord who has the blessings of a particular chaos god, say you're fighting against the I forgot their name. Anyways, you're fighting against that Imperial
Death Specters.
Space Marine. Yeah, you're fighting against the Death Specters, and you have a powerful Zinc warlord who has banded together a huge group of Zinc Space Marines. And you wanted to use Abaddon for that character because you just want this super powerful, like he's juiced up.
Yeah.
He's been juiced up by Zinc, and he's leading this big warband with him. That makes sense to me, and you would just change the name of the character from Abaddon to this guy, and you would just use his rules. Right? And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I would definitely say that you want to use a similarly sized model.
Yeah.
Or even the same model with a bunch of conversions.
Yeah, that could work.
We've done that before,
Yeah.
right? Like I've used Mad Doc Grotsnick as my warlord for years, and I just changed his name to Drill Teeth, and I use him all the time.
Yeah.
My excuse for him is that he's made of spare parts anyways, so whenever he dies, they just kind of patch him back together, or he patches himself back together,
Yeah.
and everything is fine. But I like this mission where it gives both characters 25 wounds.
Yeah.
When they duel. It's way more fun that way. The fight lasts more than one turn, first of all.
Exactly. And that is yeah.
And they make rules that, since they're dueling, other characters aren't allowed to shoot them, which we saw happen in Black Legion. In Black Legion, when Abaddon and Sigismund fought, nobody messed with them.
That's right.
When they fought. That was a duel. If anybody messed with them, Abaddon was just as likely to kill his own men as the Black Templars were, because you don't do that.
Yeah, that's cool. Very true.
So that kind of mission right there, the 6th Echoes of War mission, is a great one for tailoring your own warlord versus warlord named character battle. That's a great way to finish off a campaign where the warlords fight each other. You don't even have to say, oh, they have to run across the field and fight each other. You just, you drop the other hat, or you drop the other shoe and just start them right next to each other fighting. Why not, right? As far as helping them survive the battle, we've had rules like that before, right? I think, what's his name? What's that Imperial Guard character again?
Yarick.
Fights Guy School. Yarick.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yarick has a back to life rule. So does Celestine. There are several characters who have rules where they just come back to life, which is really interesting. I think Abaddon's rules help him stay alive too, and I think that his special rule is basically plot armor. Like that's his. It's kind of his. That's the rule.
Yeah.
Like, hold on, let me find it again.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, he's got a lot
and
of Black
I strongly
Crusades.
recommend. Yeah. Sorry, Avadon. It's called Dark Destiny. I'll repeat it.
Yeah.
Abaddon to the Despoiler has a 4+ invulnerable save. In addition, all damage suffered by Abaddon to the Despoiler is halved, rounding up.
Oh.
Dark Destiny. So that's just reality saying that Abaddon has better things to do than die by your stray bolter shot.
Right.
So I think this Dark Destiny rule, you could say, okay, I'm going to bring my main character in a certain number of scenarios during our narrative campaign, and this character is going to have this destiny rule.
Yeah.
And both players will have the option to have that rule for their main character or for their named character. And that, I think that is a good way to protect them in your games. You have to be careful about using rules that say, okay, the main goal of this mission is to kill the main character. Well, if you make that your first scenario of the campaign, that's kind of boring.
Yeah.
That's not the point. The point is for those two characters to succeed and fail at their goals throughout the campaign, and then have a final calamitous meet up at the end.
Right.
We're trying to tell a story here. We're not trying to formulate a reflection of reality. We're telling a story. So that's really kind of what I wanted to get across when it comes to that. So once again, we have that Dark Destiny, which we could just rename to Destiny, and you can give it to your characters. You can also give them the plot armor rule that Celestine has and that Yarick has, where they can come back after being killed once on a dice roll of some kind. Little characters, maybe there has to be some kind of lookout sir that you give them. If you have an Imperial Guard character who's just this 3 or 4 wound nobody,
right,
but who somehow has the luck of the Irish and is somehow blessed by the God Emperor for some reason. I think that there's one like the big Imperial Guard novel series that everybody loves. What's that guy's name? Gaunt.
Oh yeah, it's Gaunt's Ghost series. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like there are some characters who are the sun shines on their butts, you know. So I would maybe give them in addition give those characters just a 2-up lookout, sir, for models that are near them. Also, some scenarios can be some characters they want to be up in the thick of things,
right?
And when they're up there, it can be tough for them to survive long against big monstrous creatures. So, Age of Sigmar has a cool rule where if any model is within like range of them, it's a minus to hit them. So I wonder if maybe also invoking like a -1 to hit your named character warlords during narrative games is a good idea in the shooting phase. Once again, you know, there's also the thought that like, you know, you don't want a stray bolter shot to kill them, but also those are sometimes the most epic moments.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't make them totally immune to that kind of thing happening. And you may even want to suspend rules like that during the final engagement of the scenario or of the campaign, because that's when that sort of thing can happen. And it can happen at any time, and I'm not, you know, you don't have to listen to me and do what I say. You know, it's a free country. You can do what you want with your narrative games, but sometimes it makes narrative sense for the main characters to be in jeopardy, and sometimes it makes sense for them to be to save that moment for a later time. So that's just what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Do you have any characters that you've used as named characters, but like changed their name? I feel like you have.
The only time I've ever really used a named character has been Shrike. But I think I used him as Shrike with it was the Blood Ravens army. So yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, I gave him another name. But most of the time, cool. I think that's about the only named character I've ever. Like I have Gilliman, and I've got him painted, but I don't think I've ever used him in a game.
But he's painted as Blood Ravens, right?
Oh yeah. So I could go through and use that. Well, it was one part, you know, let's annoy people, and the other part, I could actually use him. But I don't think I've ever used him in a game.
You need to come up with a story for him and like why he's in Blood Raven colors and who this big dude is.
Yeah. Oh, he just woke up.
Other than just looted.
He woke up and he was painted red. What?
That's fantastic.
Actually, I think I'm going to start using my Blood Ravens and kill team.
Yes.
Just because my Raven Guard is really kind of scout heavy, and it's how can I put it? The Raven Guard that I have built don't work real well in kill team, but the ones I have for the Blood Ravens, they do, because there's a lot more variety of weaponry, you know.
Right.
And plus, I have a bunch of kill team models that you and I came up with in our games, so they need to hit the tabletop. But as for going through and using counts as, I think really I've used Shrike a few times, and I've never used Gilliman, but he's painted red. And
yeah, I've used like Mad Doc as my doc, and I've used Gazgul infrequently as like this Goth war boss under the command of my Pain Boy. But Snickrot, I've always used as Snickrot because he's a free agent.
Yeah.
But Boss Zagstruck, I use him as Captain Shazo Blitzclaws.
Yeah.
Who as I've spoken about before, is very very much emulating the Tau in his the way he fights, flying around. So yeah, I think it works either way depending on what story you want to tell.
I think now that I'm trying to remember what I've done. I think I used what was it, Khan on the bike. I think I did kit bash someone for that, but I don't know if I ever used that one on the table.
Well, I remember for a while you were running like all bikes.
Yeah.
Rah.
Yeah, because
lots of bikes.
It was, one, a nice strong army, and two, it got across the table really quickly. And one thing I've discovered is I do like playing games where I can get across the board super fast.
Those games end very quickly.
Yeah. Yesterday's shooting thing was just kind of it was a good game, but I started to get kind of frustrated because it's like, this isn't the game that I typically like to play. I'd rather do an assault game. And
this should be over.
Yeah, and it was just I built the wrong list, And now that I've got a game in, I can actually go back and actually go back to the Blood Ravens because I have more options built for them. But,
and you've also got your Blood Ravens Primarch ready to go.
Yeah, although
Trazyn.
I don't think we can use him in Trazyn.
So Trazyn is interesting. Again, remember, in 40K, in narrative play, there are no faction limitations.
Right.
The only limitation is that detachment, for an army to be battle-forged, a detachment must share a keyword. So you could have a detachment of Space Marines and a detachment of Necrons, and they could work together.
Yeah.
As long as they're in separate detachments.
Yeah.
Trazyn is interesting because he often sits off to the side and kind of plots and schemes. He's not really a guy who's up in the business, right?
Right, he normally is.
And I think that's the kind of character who might have that destiny rule during a campaign. Because he shouldn't be up in the fight. He should be hanging out. If anybody tries to take him out, he should have some special rules that protect him.
Yeah.
And then if he does decide to get up in the business, then, that's fine. But at least he'll have some protection. Do you can you think of any other scenarios that would kind of require the whole wound boosting, that other scenario, the duel scenario? I'm kind of thinking, one just came to mind, an escape type scenario.
Oh yeah,
right, where the warlord has to get from one end of the battlefield to the other,
right,
in order to make it to the next battle.
Yeah. So it boosts,
in that situation, I would expect the warlord to definitely have more. You need to give him more wounds, or he's going to die.
Right.
Pretty much immediately in the assault.
Yeah.
He's also going to get tied up real easily. People are going to be able to block him.
Right.
From movement. So it'd also give him the ability to kind of move through other models if he needs to, even if he's engaged in combat, give him the ability to kind of move across a unit that's blocking him so he can get to the other side.
Kind of like the old hit and run rule from 7th edition.
Yeah. Like hit and run, except you'd actually be able to move through models if you did that. If he's still within an inch, he still has to fight at the end of that movement, but at least he'd be able to move across. That's fun. What other cool scenarios can we think of that would include named characters like this and kind of enhance their ability to anything with objectives?
Yeah, that there could be something if you're doing an Echoes of War type thing where you're looking at a historical thing, maybe a chance for for instance, Abaddon to actually gain Dracnian. Maybe he has to fight through a room, one side of the board to the other to get that objective marker.
Well, I guess it was kind of like Catacombs, so maybe a what do you call it? An underground. What's that called? The underground missions.
Oh, Zone Mortalis.
You could do a Zone Mortalis where it's just Abaddon fighting against wave after wave of demons under a citadel. where it's just him fighting. That would be really cool. Like a kill team with Abaddon.
Yeah, because there's
against demons.
That could actually be something that you could do to create like those one-man narratives. You know, where having to go across the board. You know, just one solo dude and just fighting off almost random. Was it the old Wandering Monster chart? D&D, yeah. So I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that could be used there.
That's a neat thing that just made me think of. You could use the Flesh Wound mechanics from Kill Team just for the character. Like, I wouldn't use it for the whole army.
Yeah.
But apply those Flesh Wound mechanics to the named character of your army. That way, if you do manage to overextend yourself a little bit, you do have a chance of like bringing him back from the brink.
Yeah.
At the very end there. It's not a bad call. Yeah, that would be a really neat way to do it. Maybe, tailor some of these objectives to the type of named character you have leading your army. For example, I have the Mad Doc. Mad Doc might be going after Primaris body parts or whatever, or Primaris corpse that he can use to enhance his own warriors somehow. And only he can perform the operation of extracting the parts they need. Same thing with a Tech Marine. If you have a Tech Marine type as your main character, they would also have very specific... we did have that whole scenario where we were your Tech Marine versus my Big Mech, like trying to both sabotage and repair certain machinery simultaneously.
Yeah, I remember
Stuff
that.
like that.
Yeah, I remember that. Oh, I do remember that. That was a lot of explosions in that game.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
I'm imagining also like a character with like a conversion beaver, or a character with a shock attack gun.
Yeah.
Instead of shooting those weapons, maybe they're using them to extract energy instead of shoot them.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Those are the kind of things that big main named characters like this would be really good for in a campaign game. Like a named character should be doing things, especially in the ultimate conclusion of that campaign. They should be doing things that only that character should be able to do.
Right.
They have been brought into that mission to do that thing that only they can do. That's why they're at that location.
Yeah.
Because only they were able to do it, so therefore they've been tapped to do it. So that's something to think of when coming up with the plot of your narrative campaign and of using them in a scenario. Otherwise, someone else might as well just do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all I have to say about that. I think that's very good. What about you, Jason? You got anything else to add for named characters in your campaigns?
It's I don't think I have too much. It's just one of those things with when you're using named characters, when you're using ultra powerful dudes like that, make sure and talk to your opponent first. Like, I'm not gonna bring Bobby G or anyone else unless I've talked. I'm not gonna bring Magnus unless I've talked to someone.
Yeah, it has to make sense, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the game, like if you're playing that kind of game, maybe it's a really large point game.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, depending on the narrative.
Right.
But think about it. And sometimes that character can be quite the canard in a smaller point game, anyways, because he's so many points that it's kind of a detriment to the army's ability to complete its mission.
Yeah, if you have a small army, bringing Magnus could be a bad thing.
Bad call for Magnus, yeah. All right, great. Let's take a break. We're going to come back and close out the show.
Hello, everyone. The Masters of the Forge is now a proud member of the NPC, the Narrative Podcast Consortium. Our aim is to inspire your hobby through the rich lore of the 41st millennium. If you enjoy our podcast, then make sure to check out these other awesome shows where you can get coverage on campaigns, Black Library, and all kinds of general topics of the 40K background.
The NGC 40K podcast also provides in-depth campaign coverage, audio dramas, and free-flowing narrative campaign creation.
The Adeptus Terra podcast also features in-depth discussions of the lore and commentary on the hobby.
Oh, and sexy English voices.
Oh, yeah.
The Masters of the Forge brings the world of 40k to life on your tabletop, with discussion on the lore, backed up by narrative-themed rules and battle reports.
Of course, this is only a fraction of the topics covered by the podcasts of the NPC. Please tune in to find out more.
Hey, Masters of the Forge listeners, are you looking to expand your Warhammer 40,000 gaming group?
Do you want to start a 40k club in your area?
Do you want the people you attract to be like-minded mofos?
Do you want to advertise your YouTube channel?
Or even attract more subscribers to your hobby blog or online community?
Then what better way than to advertise on the Masters of the Forge podcast?
All we ask of you is that you email us at mastersoftheforge@gmail.com or message us on Facebook with a full text of your advertisement, including the region in which you live and any contact information people can use to get a hold of you.
We will have one of our many tech servitors read your advertisement on the air. We promise not to make fun of you.
Though we can't always predict the actions of our servitors, you really can't find good help these days.
No, you can't.
Welcome back, everybody. My son is being a jerk, according to Wendy. I was going to feed him while we were talking, but I figured it would be easier just to... I just handed him off to Wendy. She's probably ready to stab me. But we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks again to everybody for your kind words of support throughout this whole thing. Really appreciate it. Yep. Thanks for hanging in there with a month off. That I know that can be annoying. We're still like number 7 or something, or 6 on the search for Warhammer 40k in iTunes. So
good.
At least people are still downloading the show.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. I'm not sure how long this train of, of being up there in that search is going to last, being once a month. But again, some things are more important than podcasting. Having said that, we're still going to try to maintain a high level of quality for these shows.
Yeah.
So, having said that, I don't know what the next episode is going to be about. But
it's going to be the episode will be about how happy I am that school's out. That's what the episode's going to be about.
Right?
It's just going to be me giggling and drinking.
Well, definitely. We definitely should consider the possibility of looking some of these rules. This chaos kick. Maybe the chaos kick can't end. Maybe we should talk about these really cool, traitor chapters. These What are they called?
I'm curious
about fine. This is great radio.
I'm curious about the Primaris traders that are showing up. That is what I am most curious about.
Renegade chapters.
Yeah.
Let's talk about these renegade chapters. Like, there's several named ones, and we can go through. Some of them are known from the past, and some of them are somewhat new. So why don't we go through those?
Yeah.
And as usual, whatever we say we're going to do, we probably won't do, so I don't know why we discussed it. Check us out on iTunes. Give us a 5-star rating, please. Give us a cool shout-out, and if you do, we'll read your comment on the air. Check out our cool compatriots in the NPC, which you probably just heard a commercial about.
Yeah, it'll be in there.
Check us out on Twitter. Masters of Forge, which is now set up to automatically post a link to the episode, so I never get on it, but that's fine. Also, check us out on Instagram. We're doing hashtag Masters of the Forge on our pictures, and of course Facebook, where we engage in the community full force.
Yeah.
Also, don't forget that we have a Discord chat for the NPC that you're welcome to join anytime. Send a message to Masters of the Forge or any of our other NPC brothers and sisters. Okay, let's be honest, brothers.
They're all brothers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Terra
Regardless of our Black Legion status, we're still brothers. And send a message there, and we will add you to the group.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So next time we're going to talk about No, we're not. Yes, we are. I just left a bunch of silence there in case you wanted to just interject, what we're actually going to talk about. Or not. Next time I'll try not to be covered in feces. But until then...
Play the... Sorry. Play the game
feces.
The way you want to.
Feces. My life is feces. It's just... That's all there is now. It's dog feces, cat feces, and baby feces. It's just all feces. So feces sounds weird when you say it over and over again. Feces.
And it's a medical term, and I'm not going to bleep it.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
All right.
Your feces. Your face is feces. This whole world is feces. There's a Dead Milkmen song called Life is Feces, except they don't use the word feces.
Oh.
Life is feces. Life is feces. The world is feces. The world is feces. This is life as we know it. This is life as we know it. Yeah. Dead Milkmen, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good whatever. Play the game without feces.
Good night, y'all.
This podcast is protected by the Creative Commons Attribution, No Derivatives, Non-Commercial International License. More information about this license and contact information if you have any requests can be found at our blog, mastersoftheforge.com. The music used in this podcast was made by Parad of the duo Sublevel 3. The track is used with his permission.
It's such a good feeling to play games your way. It's such a happy feeling 40K'ing away. And when you throw dice with story in mind, it's such a wonderful way to unwind. It's a good feeling, a very good feeling, the feeling you know that we'll be back when the fortnight's new, and we'll have new ideas for you, and you'll have things you'll want to talk about. We will too.